This world, I'd come to realize, was a world built from a bad romance novel. The kind you'd find at the bottom of a Kindle Unlimited search history. To put it simply, she loves him, he doesn't love her. Some other guy is hopelessly in love with her, another guy is also hopelessly in love with her. She pours her heart out for the main guy. He literally rips her heart out. She shuts herself off from love, and then, finally, he has a change of heart and falls for her. In English, please. I was standing on a rooftop, a normal-looking guy next to a waist-high, egg-shaped metal droid that looked like it had rolled right out of a sci-fi movie. I'm that guy, Ryan Miller, and I was only here because I'd made the mistake of posting a couple of sarcastic comments on some trashy romance novel, and the universe, in its infinite wisdom, had teleported me here, phone and all. The little droid was my court-appointed system. The female lead loves the male lead, but the male lead is dismissive of her. The robot chirped in a flat, synthesized voice. The male lead has an unattainable first love, the one that got away, but they can't be together due to a family feud. The female lead has a second male lead, a total simp, who does everything for her. The female lead dedicates her life to winning the male lead's affection, willing to give him everything. For a brief period, the male lead's attitude toward her softens, and she believes her love is finally being returned. However, he is only interested in her for her organs. Oh, I said, the piece is clicking into place. So, you mean literally pouring her heart out? And what follows is the classic grovel and beg for her back storyline, I assume. But I'm a little curious. If she's had her heart and lungs removed, how does the plot continue? The second male lead is a doctor. After anesthetizing the female lead, he voluntarily takes her place on the operating table. Therefore, it is the second male lead's organs that are harvested. Impressive. The devotion of simps truly knows no bounds, I muttered. So, where do I fit into this mess? As per the established plot, you are scheduled to interview today for the position of executive assistant to the male lead. Your primary responsibility will be to relay the male lead's directives to the staff. Got it. I'm a head butler. And how do I get back to the real world? You simply have to survive until the story's conclusion. Sounds easy enough, I said, shrugging. So I just don't go to the interview. I'll just chill at home and wait it out. However, without a job, you will not earn any money. Furthermore, if you fail to attend the interview, the male lead's company will blacklist you, ensuring you cannot find employment anywhere in the city. Right? This was going to require some long-term planning. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, with a rock and a hard place being two unhinged main characters who might just decide to kill me for a bit of dramatic flair. A few months later, here I was, standing in front of the man himself. Kaden Thorne, the protagonist of this train wreck, CEO of Thorne Industries. His father, the old chairman, had already retired to the background, leaving Kaden to run the company into the ground with his personal drama. Ryan. Yes, Mr. Thorne. Give me a coffee. Blue Mountain, right? I was an executive assistant, not a butler. But Kaden Thorne couldn't care less about the company. His days were a rotation of rejecting the female lead and pining for the one that got away. That meant I was the one actually running this place. I'd heard his long-lost love was married now, which made his relentless pining all the more pathetic. But hey, in a romance novel, love trumps all, even common sense. Right away, I said, my voice as neutral as always, and headed to the kitchenette. When I returned, a woman was standing in the CEO's office. Unsurprisingly, it was her again, the female lead, Bella Sterling. Kaden, she said, her voice soft. You asked for the chilled, white asparagus soup. I picked it up from that Michelin-starred place downtown myself. I hope it's to your liking. You've delivered it. You can go now, Kaden said, his tone dripping with ice. But Ryan, show her out. Kaden cut her off before she could finish. Ms. Sterling, you heard the man, I said, stepping forward. Don't make my job harder than it needs to be. Since my employer had spoken, I had to follow his orders. All right, Bella said, her shoulders slumping. Take care of yourself, Kaden. She had no choice but to leave. I escorted her to the main entrance of the building, the entire walk down shrouded in a thick silence. I tried once, a while back, to gently suggest she shouldn't waste her life on Kaden. She'd shot back with a sharp, what would you know about it? And I decided then and there to never meddle again. Being privy to the plot, I knew the whole story. As kids, Bella had saved Kaden from drowning, but he'd mistakenly credited a girl who just happened to be passing by, Victoria Vance, heiress to the Vance family fortune. So, Kaden spent his life chasing Victoria. Then, the Vance family's business collapsed, a disaster Thorne's family had a hand in. During the turmoil, Victoria's father died of a sudden illness, and she was forced to take over. She managed to stabilize the company and began systematically dismantling every rival who had wronged her family. Only the Thorns remained, but Thorne Industries was a behemoth, too big for her to take down quickly. Kaden, however, remained blissfully ignorant, still pining for Victoria day in and day out, completely oblivious to the fact that she wouldn't give him the time of day. And in a mirror image of his obsession, Bella brought him gifts every single day. Look at the thanks she got. Though Bella claimed Kaden had asked for the soup, I knew it was actually Victoria's favorite. How did I know? Because every single time, Kaden would order me to deliver it to Victoria, and every single time, I'd be unceremoniously turned away at the entrance of her company. Why didn't he go himself? Because even he knew Victoria couldn't stand the sight of him. But did he really think she'd accept it from me? Not a chance. I was used to it by now. Besides, I'd been in a rush this morning and barely had breakfast. So, I wasn't going to deliver it today. I'd just have a little snack myself. Waste not, why not? I wonder what the female lead would think if she knew the delicacy she brought for the male lead, intended for the second female lead, ended up in my stomach. I ducked into a small supply closet, out of sight of the security cameras, and opened the container. You can really taste the quality from a top-tier kitchen, I mused, taking a bite. A little heavy on the tarragon, maybe. I'd give it a 4.5-star rating. I filmed a quick review for my anonymous food blog, making sure to keep my face out of the shot. It was a little hobby of mine. After destroying the evidence, I stepped out of the closet just as a young woman from marketing approached me. Mr. Miller, there's a meeting starting. We need you to notify Mr. Thorne. Got it. I'm on my way. I went back up to the top-floor office. The CEO was still deep in his unproductive reverie. Peeking at his computer screen, I saw he was browsing wedding venues. Ryan, perfect timing, he said, spotting me. Come help me decide. Which of these venues do you think Victoria and I would like for our wedding? The man was delusional. They hadn't even gone on a date. But as an executive assistant, keeping a straight face was part of the job description. I didn't let a hint of my true thoughts show. This one's nice, I said, pointing randomly. Right? I thought so too. Anyway, what did you need? There's a board meeting you need to attend downstairs. You can handle small stuff like that, he said with a dismissive wave. I trust your abilities. Funny how he never trusted my abilities enough to give me a raise when I asked. Here I was, doing a CEO's job for an assistant salary. It was infuriating. Luckily, over the past few months, I'd used my position to skim a few kickbacks for vendor contracts. If anyone asked, I'd just say Kaden authorized it. He never looked at the books anyway. And for a company this size, the amounts were a rounding error. I considered it hazard pay for babysitting a pair of star-crossed morons. I walked straight into the conference room. Mr. Thorne has authorized me to represent him in this meeting. No one batted an eye. It wasn't the first time. The number of times Kaden Thorne had actually shown his face in a board meeting could be counted on one hand. The meeting proceeded as usual, except instead of reporting to the CEO, they were all reporting to me. When it was over, I left a copy of the meeting minutes on Kaden's desk. Thanks. I'll get to it when I have a moment. I knew he'd never find a moment. But who cared? My job was done. I went back to my assistant's office to sip some tea. If no one else needed anything, I could usually clock out by 6:30. Another uneventful day, I suppose, I said to the system, which was currently disguised as my office trash can. Hey, any idea when the plot is supposed to kick into high gear? Please wait for the opportune moment. There should be significant development soon, it replied. Whatever. Not my problem. Let's see how Thorne Industries stock is doing. Besides the kickbacks, playing the market was another one of my side hustles. Nice up another point. That translated to another few $1,000s in my pocket. Insider information really was a superpower. What's that? Insider trading is illegal? Please. This was a romance novel, and the information wasn't technically mine, so it couldn't be traced back to me. I spent the rest of the morning killing time, waiting for lunch. After a quick bite in the company cafeteria, I took a nap in my office. Then, in the afternoon, I waited for Bella to arrive with her daily offering, which I would then pretend to deliver to Victoria, only to be turned away and get another free meal. Then, after work, I'd take the subway home. That was my routine, or at least it was supposed to be. That afternoon, right after I'd finished off the foie gras torchon Bella had brought, I returned to my office to find a new email in my inbox. Attached were several files, a video of me at a dinner meeting with one of the firm's partners, and copies of the two different versions of the contract we'd signed, the official one and the one with my kickback baked in. Every damning detail was there. Ow! I whispered, a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. I was so careful. If this got out, I was looking at serious jail time. But the fact that it was sent to me directly, instead of to the authorities, meant there was probably room to negotiate. At the bottom of the email was a single sentence. If you don't want this to go public, be at the Sunbeam Cafe, across from Vance Enterprises, at 6 o'clock tonight. A threat? Fine, I grumbled, deleting the email immediately. Let's see what they're selling. I was supposed to clock out at 6:30, but I was sitting in a booth at the Sunbeam Cafe well before 6. Who in the company would dare question my hours? Kaden was checked out, and everyone knew the place would fall apart without me. I'd passed the cafe many times, but this was my first time inside. It was on Victoria Vance's turf. A few minutes later, a woman in a sharp business suit and sunglasses sat down across from me. Sorry, this seat's taken, I said reflexively. Ryan Miller, I presume, she said. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. So, this was the blackmailer. And you are? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew. Victoria Vance. She removed her sunglasses. I had to admit, she was stunning, more beautiful than any actress I'd ever seen, and she was barely wearing any makeup. No wonder Kaden was so obsessed. I doubt you call me here just to say hello. Let's cut to the chase, she said, her voice crisp and direct. I want you to work for me. What? That's sudden. This was not what I expected. I figured she wanted me to be a corporate spy, in which case I'd have just taken my chances with prison. A few years behind bars was nothing if it meant I could return to my own world when the story ended. What do you mean? It's simple. Quit Thorne Industries and come work for me at Vance Enterprises. I'll cover your buyout clause in full, no matter the cost. Are you sure about that? We're not talking about a small number. Name your price. I'll have my CFO wire it to your account within 10 minutes. I held up the forefinger and thumb of my left hand, making a gesture for money. Let's say $1 million signing bonus. On top of the buyout. Victoria didn't even blink. She picked up her phone and made a call. Transfer $1 million to the account I sent you earlier. I figured if she could dig up dirt on my kickbacks, my bank account number was child's play. Not 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text message confirming the transfer. Ms. Vance is a woman of her word, I said, a grin spreading across my face. I'll draft my resignation letter tonight and start the transition process tomorrow. I should be able to start here by next month at the latest. There's no problem money can't solve, and if it can't, you just aren't using enough of it. Good. I'll be waiting for you, she said. I do have one question, Miss Vance. Why go to all this trouble for an executive assistant? To be blunt, I have a feud with Thorne Industries, or rather, the Thorne family. My plan to gradually dismantle their company was proceeding smoothly. Then you showed up and stabilized everything, completely derailing my efforts. That alone proves how capable you are. I could have simply destroyed you, had you sent to prison. But what a waste of talent that would be. It's far better to have you on my side. And as a bonus, it cripples the Thorns. Wouldn't you agree? You make a very compelling argument, I replied. This woman was far too sharp to be a stock character in a cheap romance novel. But whatever. A job was a job. I went straight home from the cafe and started drafting my resignation letter. With a new job lined up and a hefty signing bonus in the bank, I wasn't about to waste any time. The next morning, I placed the letter on Kaden's desk. I'm resigning. What? Why, Ryan? Kaden actually looked surprised. You're doing great work here. Another company made me a better offer. They're covering my buyout clause in full. Can I ask which company? I hesitated, wondering if I should tell him I was defecting to his mortal enemy. I decided against it. I'd rather not say. Fine. I'll find a replacement within a month. Get your work transitioned over, and you can go. And you're right, the buyout clause is non-negotiable. The nerve of this guy. My salary was $100,000 a year, but my buyout clause was $2 million. It was absurd. In just a few months, the projects I'd managed had netted the company hundreds of millions in profit. In my first couple of months, I hadn't taken a single day off, working until 11 or midnight every night just to keep Thorne Industries from imploding. Good thing that $1 million bonus was sitting pretty in my bank account. But since I hadn't officially left yet, I still had work to do. Later that day, Bella came by at her usual time, and, as usual, Kaden told me to deliver her gift to Victoria. Today, it was a bouquet of roses. Kaden had these sentimental fits sometimes. I took the flowers over to Vance Enterprises, just like I always did. But this time, something was different. The facial recognition scanner at the entrance actually let me in. I had no idea when my face had been registered in their system, but the security guards didn't stop me, so I figured it was a good sign. I felt a bit out of place, carrying a massive bouquet of roses through the sleek, modern lobby. People I passed in the hallway gave me curious, slightly awkward glances. Finally, I reached the CEO's office and knocked. Enter. I pushed the door open. Victoria looked up, surprised to see me. Starting early, are we? She asked, a small smile playing on her lips. And what's with the roses? Are you here to confess your undying love? Hardly. It's from that idiot, Kaden. He sends you something twice a day. He can't come himself, so he sends me. You shot that down so quickly. You could have lied and made my day, she teased. I just chuckled. A married woman playing coy. You said twice a day? I haven't seen you around much lately. That's because I've been eating whatever he sends. Saves me a trip, I admitted, then immediately realized my mistake. How would she know that? Relax, she said, reading my expression. I don't have you under surveillance. It's just that someone reports to me every time you arrive. Well, if there's nothing else, I should get back. I still have some work to hand off. I quickly left Vance Enterprises, leaving the roses behind in her office. When I got back to Thorne Industries, I found that my replacement had already been chosen. Ryan, come meet Leo Harrison, Kaden said. In his office stood a man with a gentle, scholarly air about him. We shook hands. Wait a minute. Leo Harrison? Wasn't he the second male lead, the doctor from the original story? What was he doing here? I needed to ask the system what was going on with the plot. I had one of my subordinates take Leo on a tour of the company and rush back to my office. What's going on? Why is Leo Harrison here? Isn't he supposed to be a doctor? Querying, the system beeped. Subject Leo Harrison is currently embroiled in a malpractice lawsuit and has lost his medical license. When the female lead, Bella Sterling, learned of your departure, she recommended him for the position. You've got to be kidding me. How did Kaden approve this? Hiring a doctor to be an executive assistant? The system does not have that information. This was the kind of illogical nonsense you could only find in a romance novel. Well, whatever. At least I have a replacement now. I can get this transition over with and let the new guy experience the hell I've been living through. For the next few days, I meticulously taught Leo everything about the company's operations, department handoffs, report approvals, and even the ridiculous task of delivering gifts to Kaden's unrequited love. Whether any of it actually sank and was not my problem, Kaden didn't care about the business anyway. Leo was in for a rough ride. Soon enough, my last day arrived. I packed my personal belongings into a box, confirmed with HR that my file was closed, and walked out of Thorne Industries for the last time. The next day, I reported to the CEO's office at Vance Enterprises. Have a seat. Water. Victoria poured me a glass herself. I didn't stand on ceremony and drank it all in one go. When do I start? No rush. Get acquainted with the company first. We can talk about work later. I was given a tour, shown to my new, spacious office, and then nothing. The entire day passed without a single task. In fact, my entire first month passed without me doing a shred of work. When I asked Victoria why she wasn't giving me any assignments, she just said, just hang tight for now. I'll have something for you soon. Fine by me. I was essentially on a paid vacation. To the left, to the left. Up, up, up. Oh, you died. It's all your fault, man, come on. I was deep in a gaming session with my headphones on when a woman's cough sounded from nearby. I looked up to see Victoria standing over me, watching. I yanked off my headphones, feeling a pang of guilt, but quickly recovered and changed the subject. Is there some work for me to do? Some of your former colleagues have also jumped ship to our company. Would you like to say hello? Oh, really? I'll go see them. When I entered the conference room, I saw at least 20 familiar faces from Thorne Industries. Ryan, one of them cried, rushing over to hug me, snot and tears threatening to ruin my shirt. It was the former head of marketing. We couldn't take it anymore at Thorne. Okay, take it easy. Don't get my suit dirty, I said, patting his back awkwardly. That new executive assistant knows nothing, he wailed. He can't read a financial report. His project proposals are vague. His directives are a complete mess. And he changes his mind every 5 minutes. We just couldn't work like that anymore. What about Kaden? Doesn't he do anything? The CEO just stares at his computer and smiles like an idiot all day. At this rate, Thorne Industries is going to go bankrupt. What about the board of directors? Don't they have any say? Kaden and his father own 75% of the stock. The old chairman is out of the picture, so the other shareholders are powerless. It sounded like Thorne Industries was well and truly doomed. So what are you guys going to do now? We're not sure yet. Ms. Vance told us to wait for instructions, but our employee files have already been transferred here. All right, hang in there. If you need anything, let me know. I'll try to help where I can. We were colleagues, after all. Back in my office, I asked the system, was any of this in the original story? No. So my actions changed the timeline. That is a distinct possibility. Whatever. I'll just play it by ear. As long as I'm doing well, I don't give a damn about the plot. By the way, how are the main characters doing? Their relationship appears to be unchanged. However, the male lead, Kaden, seems to have stopped pining for Victoria. He is now pursuing her cousin, who is known to be quite manipulative. As a result, his dislike for the female lead, Bella, has intensified. She has a cousin? A paternal cousin, yes. She has been disowned by Victoria. Why? After Victoria's father passed away, her uncles, acting in their own self-interest, tried to marry Victoria off to Brendan Croft, the youngest son of the Croft family. Once Victoria gained power, she expelled all of those uncles from the family. The Croft family was also driven to bankruptcy by her actions. So now these cast-offs from the Vance family have teamed up with Thorne Industries? I doubt they'll be able to make any waves. Not with the state Thorne is in now. With that thought, I stopped worrying about the plot. A short time later, Victoria summoned me to her office. Ms. Vance, what can I do for you? I'm planning to launch a new company. Its business scope will directly overlap with the current operations of Thorne Industries. I want you to be in charge. What do you say? That's a bit sudden, isn't it? I've been preparing this plan for a long time. It was ready to launch, but your effective management at Thorne forced me to delay it. So it was my fault. The time is right now, she continued. We've already poached the core team from Thorne Industries. We have the timing, the location, and the people all aligned. It's time to deliver a thunderous blow to Thorne. Honestly, I wasn't thrilled about it. Thorne Industries had been my old employer, after all, but Victoria was offering me a hell of a lot of money. So sorry, old boss. Business is business. I began the intensive process of setting up the new company. The team that had jumped ship from Thorne was placed in roles similar to their old ones. It was around this time that I heard Kaden's new love interest, Victoria's cousin, had been diagnosed with a severe illness and needed an organ transplant. Looks like the timeline is converging. I said to my system. Observation confirms this, it replied. The female lead is still fated to have her organs harvested. I don't get it. I'm mused. There are plenty of organ donors. Can't they just pay to jump the line? Why do they have to take hers? The answer is, because it's a romance novel, the system stated flatly. A while later, the system updated me. Just as in the original story, the second male lead, Leo, sacrificed himself for Bella. Finally realizing that Kaden didn't love her, Bella faked her own death and disappeared. After she was gone, Kaden finally understood that she was his true love. But with her dead, his personality warped, and he became a changed man. So cliché, he sighed. But it's a shame about Leo. From our brief interactions, he seemed like a decent guy. A bit clueless and not very competent, but still. How's Kaden holding up now? Kaden Thorne's emotional state is highly volatile. He frequently smashes objects in his office. However, with the object of his affection gone, he has finally started to take an interest in the company's affairs. A little too late for that. The network of contacts I'd built while at Thorne was now paying dividends. The upstream suppliers and factories now dealt exclusively with me, not Thorne Industries. He was bound to hit a wall. The business war was in full swing. Kaden had little time to strategize. Thorne Industries was getting battered by my new company, losing ground every day. But a wounded giant is still a giant. While we had stifled their expansion, their vast resources allowed them to hold their ground in stalemate. Under these circumstances, Kaden Thorne requested a negotiation. Ryan, or should I say Mr. Miller now, he said, his voice tight. Kaden, long time no see. I replied with a wide grin. How are things? Picked out a wedding venue yet? Ha ha ha. I made no effort to hide my contempt. The memory of him using me as his personal delivery boy was still fresh. I never thought that after you left, you'd become such a formidable opponent. Let's skip the small talk. Just tell me why you wanted to meet. I want you to hand over the manufacturing plants upstate. Are you out of your mind? Why would I do that? Because you asked nicely? Kaden, looking like he'd anticipated this, slid a file across the table. I picked it up. Inside were copies of some of the evidence of my kickbacks at Thorne, probably fished out of some dusty corner of their archives. The copies were grainy and unclear. Because of this, he said smugly. I looked at the papers and laughed. I made his company hundreds of millions, and he was going to hold a few 100,000 over my head. Nice try. You got guts, I said, leaning back in my chair. But you know what? I know where Bella is. Looks like you'll never see her again. I hadn't planned on stooping this low, but he had threatened me first. Bella, she's alive? Where is she? Kaden shot up from his seat, his composure completely shattered. You want to know? Fine. Get on your knees. Call me, sir. Without a moment's hesitation, Kaden dropped to his knees with a thud. You know, I said, enjoying the moment, if you had just been nice, I might have told you, but you had to try and threaten me. So now you're going to have to do a little more to put me in a good mood. Sir, he choked out, I'll give you anything you want. Please, just tell me where Bella is. You want to know? Give me 10% of Thorne Industries stock. Don't tell me you don't have the nerve for that. It's fine. The offer stands. You can go back and think about it. When your board approves the transfer, I'll send you the information. Show's over. Get out. Kaden left, looking as pathetic as he had been arrogant when he arrived. A few days later, the stock transfer agreement was on my desk. As promised, I sent an email to Kaden with Bella's location. After the organ transplant incident brought shame upon her family, she'd been cast out. She was now working part-time as a waitress in a small diner. How Kaden chose to win her back was none of my business. With 10% of Thorne Industries now under our control, we held a celebration banquet in a private room at a fancy restaurant. As the former core members of Thorne's team and I were happily swapping stories and drinking, Victoria entered the room. "A toast to Ms. Vance," I called out, and everyone raised their glasses. One drink led to another, and I had a bit too much. When I woke up, I was in a room that wasn't mine. I flicked on a lamp and saw the person sleeping next to me. Who else could it be but Victoria? And we were both completely naked. What the hell happened? Just then, Victoria stirred and sat up, rubbing her eyes. "What's the matter? Sleep with me once, and you're already trying to deny it." I searched my memory. Vague images surfaced of a wild night, of being tangled in bed with a woman. The woman's face slowly came into focus, merging with the one in front of me. Oh crap. The woman from last night was Victoria. And for what I could remember, it was her first time. Wasn't she married? Also, I don't think we used protection. Drinking was a terrible idea. I'm never drinking again. "You were pretty good, though," she said, a playful look in her eyes. "Want to go for another round?" Even with Victoria's naked form on full display, I was in no mood. Maybe last night had been too wild, and I hadn't recovered. "Let me get this straight first. You have a husband, right?" "I do, but it's a name only. You think I'd ever let that man touch me?" Well, that was a relief. I dodged a bullet there. Wait, a sudden sense of dread washed over me. This wasn't going to be one of those CEO and her secret lover assistant stories, was it? The kind where the husband finds out, the CEO has a moment of clarity, brutally retaliates against the assistant, and leaves him ruined and alone? I'm not going to end up as that assistant, am I? What assistant? At this point, what was done was done. She was my woman now. You have to swear that you won't repeat a single word of what I'm about to tell you. Victoria looked confused, but swore the oath as I asked. It wasn't legally binding, but it was enough to see her commitment. And so, I told her everything, that I wasn't from this world, and that this world was just a badly written romance novel. "So that's why your background check came up completely blank," she said, taking in stride. "And no one thought that was strange." "Exactly. And doesn't our situation now feel exactly like one of those CEO and her secret lover plot lines? If I'm right, the next phase should be the classic cuckolded husband regrets it all combo. The divorce papers, the don't be ridiculous, though we're just colleagues, the he's like a brother to me, though I don't love you anymore, the terminal illness, and then a lifetime of regret." "You're overthinking it," she said with a dry laugh. "If it weren't illegal to kill him, he would have been dead a long time ago." Then, Victoria told me the real story behind her marriage to Brendan Croft. Brendan had seen her once and become obsessed, insisting they get married. Her uncles and the Croft family had eagerly arranged it, marrying her off for their own gain. They had barely met a few times before they were legally married. But before they could even have a wedding, Victoria had already bankrupted the Croft family and absorbed their assets. The wedding naturally never happened. She had planned to divorce him, but she got so busy with work that she put it on the back burner. Besides, Brendan served as a useful shield, warding off unwanted suitors. Harassing a married woman was, after all, bad for one's reputation. Though some, like Kaden Thorne, didn't care about their reputations. "So you have absolutely no feelings for him?" "None. So, do you want me to divorce him?" "Let's keep him around for a little while longer," I said with a smirk. "What?" "There's a certain thrill to the deception," I said, pulling her back down onto the bed, just like the night before. And so our secret relationship began. It wasn't long before her pathetic husband, Brendan, found out about us from somewhere and stormed into Victoria's office, shouting, "What's going on between you and that Ryan guy? We're just colleagues, Brendan. Don't overthink it." At that moment, I walked in holding a financial report that needed Victoria's signature. Of course, I could have sent it with someone else. I was there for other reasons. I pushed open the door to see the drama unfolding. "You must be Ryan," Brendan snarled. "Why don't you tell me what you've been up to?" "Brendan, my man, it's an honor to finally meet you." I put the report on the desk and extended my hand for a handshake. "Cut the crap. I know exactly what you two have been doing." Of course he did. I'd had the system send him photos of Victoria and me having dinner, holding hands. I'd spared him the more intimate details. And yes, Victoria knew all about it. "Brendan, you've got it all wrong," I said, putting on my best innocent. "I'm just the helpless third-party face. Ms. Vance and I truly just have a professional relationship. A professional relationship where one of us was on top and the other was on the bottom? Sure." Brendan slapped a set of photos onto the desk. "Then explain these." Dinner, I can overlook. But holding hands? Interlocking your fingers? Are you playing me for a fool? Brendan, you misunderstand, I said, feigning sincerity. I cut my hand and Vance was just kindly taking a look. If you're going to be angry with someone, be angry with me. The evidence is right here. What else do you have to say for yourself? Enough. Victoria slammed her hand on the desk, and Brendan flinched. You don't get to question my relationship with Ryan. What position do you think you're in right now? I told you we are colleagues. What more do you want? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I'm telling you, Brendan, if you're not happy, we can get a divorce right now. One phone call from me, and your family's allowance gets cut off. And don't think I don't know about the disgusting things you did behind my back. I remember everything. How you and those uncles forced me into this marriage right after my father died. How you even tried to drug me. I still have the proof. I just loved you so much. Brendan mumbled, his voice getting quieter. Get out of here, Victoria said, her voice low and dangerous. Before I decide not to show any mercy. Brendan scrambled out of the office, having completely forgotten why he'd come in the first place. The moment he was gone, I locked the door. A soft body immediately pressed against mine, and a moment later, her tongue was in my mouth. I eagerly returned the kiss. After a long while, we broke apart. You're terrible, she whispered, playing the innocent victim right in front of him. A spineless wonder like him deserves to be messed with. Besides, you said it yourself. He forced you into marriage and tried to drug you. He deserved a little payback. And I bet he's still eavesdropping outside the door. Should we take a step further, then? Victoria purred, a challenging glint in her eyes. My office is soundproofed. I guarantee he won't hear a thing. She'd initiated the battle. Of course I would accept. An hour later, I walked out of the office, feeling refreshed and revitalized. And, just as I predicted, Brendan was crouched by the wall. Mr. Miller, is there something else? Give this to Victoria. He handed me a medical report. I glanced at it. Acute leukemia. He seemed pretty full of life when he was yelling just an hour ago. Were we really skipping the divorce papers and jumping straight to the terminal illness chapter? You work fast, Brendan. I probably don't have long to live, he said. Just then, Victoria, having composed herself, walked out of her office. I handed her the diagnosis. Should I start looking into funeral homes for you? She asked coolly. That would be very kind of you, he replied. Victoria then produced a set of divorce papers she'd apparently had ready. It's all laid out here. I'll let your family keep one of the properties and $1 million. I'll also cover all of your medical expenses. Any problems? No. Brendan took the papers and quickly signed his name. His handwriting was better than mine, I noted. He then turned and walked out of the company building, his figure looking strangely lonely. So, I asked Victoria, regretting it for the rest of your life? Not at all, she said. It's just a little bittersweet, I suppose. A few years later, Brendan died. His family handled the funeral. By the way, whatever happened to Kaden Thorne? I asked the system one night, suddenly remembering him. After Victoria and I joined forces, Thorne Industries couldn't hold on. It was acquired by Vance Enterprises, and the Thorne family moved abroad. Kaden Thorne and Bella Sterling ended up together. They moved overseas with his family. Before they left, they visited the grave of the second male, lead to say their goodbyes and offer their thanks. As for Victoria's cousin, she passed away from complications related to her organ transplant. If I were the second male lead, I'd crawl out of my grave just to haunt them. On a related note, the system added, Brendan Croft's grave is right next to Leo Harrison's. Oh, wow. The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. Daddy, you're being loud. My daughter, stirred by my voice, sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes. Lying next to her, of course, was Victoria. Okay, go back to sleep, I whispered, tucking her in. We have to get up for work tomorrow. Back then, the system had asked if I wanted to return to my own world. I thought about it for a long time and decided against it. The money here was better, and I had no family left in the real world. Here, I had a family that loved me. The system stayed with me, too. My daughter seemed to have taken a liking to her little metal toy. Yes, it was time to sleep. We had work tomorrow,